and thank you for joining us for the Inspired Homes Red Academy First Time Homebuyer Workshop. So this will be the first of 4 workshops focused on first-time homebuyers, and today we'll look at the steps you can take to be financially ready for your home buying journey. My name is Jill Capsandani, and I am the managing broker and agent with Inspired Homes Indiana. I began my real estate career actually right before COVID in February of 2020, and I took over the role of managing broker for our Indiana division of Inspired Homes just this past January. So that has actually allowed me to have more opportunities like this one to educate and work more closely with home buyers. So I would like to first of all thank Janelle Dickerson, who is our host, and Fidelity National Title in Mishawaka for allowing us their office for our workshop today. So Janelle will join us a little later to discuss more about the role of the title company in your home buying purchase. I'd also like to thank Inspired Homes Marketing Coordinator, Michelle Bowden, for all of her efforts to put this workshop together and to make it available virtually for all of you. So for those of you joining us online, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to type them in the comment section and we will address your questions during this presentation. So let's get started. I would like to present our first presenter, who is Elise Colchess. Elise is a wealth advisor with Emerald River Wealth Management. Her office is in Granger, Indiana on State Road 23. For years, Elise had been helping families understand their budget, define their financial goals, and help manage their investments. She has a degree in finance and a degree in communication from Indiana State University. She has her Series 7, her Series 6.6, and a life and health insurance licenses. She also has achieved her Accredited Asset Management Specialist designation, along with her Certified Financial Planner designation. Kudos to you. Today she is here to talk about the importance of a budget when saving for financial goals like buying a home for the first time. So please join me in welcoming Elise.
All right, thank you so much, Jill. So we are going to be talking about the basics of budgeting. Now today, you're probably going to know everything already that I'm going to tell you about, but my goal is to inspire you to put just one thing to action. So first, we're going to talk about the 6 steps for creating a budget. Then we're going to talk about 4 ways to move forward, developing better spending habits, tracking the cash, and then we're going to finish up with how an LPL financial services professional can help you. The basics of budgeting. A budget is the foundation for all of your financial goals. Whether you are looking to buy that first home, plan for retirement, save for college, start your own business, the budget is going to be the first step. So we're going to start with your goals. You're going to want to write down your goals and be very specific about it. For example, I want to have $1,000 in an emergency fund by April 1st, or I want to pay off $5,000 in credit card debt in the next 18 months. Number 2, you want to know your net pay, not just your gross pay. So your employer is going to withhold taxes and insurance. You're going to want to know that dollar amount that you're getting each month. Number 3, this is the most daunting part. You're going to want to sit down and write down all of your monthly expenses. You can look at your credit card bills and your debit card, and don't forget to add in additional expenses like doctor visits, car insurance. From those things, we can create a realistic budget. So you want to take your income, subtract your monthly living expenses, put in any savings that you're putting towards your financial goals, and that's going to leave you with your discretionary income. Number 5, you want to revisit your goals and expenses. So for my clients, we have an annual review. That way we can make sure we have our goals prioritized and we know what we're working towards. And number 6 is stay connected. So americasaves.org is a website that can give you tips and tricks for budgeting and monthly savings ideas. So 4 ways to move forward. Number 1, build an emergency fund. So we want to aim to have 3 to 6 months of money, of expenses set aside in a separate account for very low transaction fees where you have easy access with no penalties, and you want it to be earning some interest. Now, how much do Americans have in their emergency fund? Right now, only 25% of Americans have more than 6 months of living expenses in their emergency fund. Only about 19% have 3 to 5 months. And 51% have fewer than 3 months in their emergency fund, where 25 has 0. The other 5%, they don't know what they have. So now we want to pay ourselves first. So we want to make sure we're taking advantage of our employer-sponsored retirement plan, or our IRAs. And number 3, stop eating out so much. I know it's simple, but going out to eat every night can be really expensive. So you can limit dinners and lunches out, cook more at home, plan a weekly menu. And number 4, finding cheaper gas and entertainment. You can do that with apps such as Gas Buddy, Living Social or Groupon, and Ticketmaster for Live Nation. So developing better spending habits, these are a couple do's and don'ts that you probably already know that I want to make sure that I mention. So don't buy name brand products. A lot of the time the generic can be just as good. Don't use out-of-network ATMs. You don't want to have to pay ATM fees. Don't buy lottery tickets. Take that money and put it in your IRA. Don't buy too many apps. You don't need the low-priced apps. Don't impulse shop. If you do impulse shop, make sure you have an accountability buddy. And don't run a tab, just pay as you go. So number 3, we want to track the cash. Keep a spending journal. How many of you actually keep a spending journal? I do. You want to write everything down. You want to make sure you know what you're spending your money on. You can also go digital. You can use Excel or Google Docs to make up your digital budget. Or you can get an app like Pocket Guard, You Need a Budget, Wally, or Good Budget. Your net worth statement. This is one of the things my clients love. You want to total up all of your assets. You want to look at your savings and investments, how much your house is worth, any of your retirement funds, your car, add up all of your assets. And then you want to add up all of your liabilities. So if you have a mortgage, student loans, car loans, anything you have a balance on, and then subtract your liabilities from your total assets to get your total net worth number. Now, how can an LPL financial services professional help? Well, I get to help my clients define their financial goals and figure out a plan where they can work towards achieving them. So guidance and advice on budgeting, debt management, and other key financial goals, personal one-on-one tailored advice, educating you on the different types of investments, helping you determine how much risk you're willing to take, and then helping you match your goals with investments. I also have an online tool to keep your financial goals top of mind, so we can prioritize your financial goals and make sure you have a realistic plan. My tool uses personalized, holistic views of your financial goals, easy to understand data and graphics, and color charts to help you visualize your success. And it's easy to make changes and adjustments, especially when you're meeting every year to help you stay on track for your financial goals. And then, of course, this is my disclosure for being a financial service professional, so I'll let this stay up on the board for a second. But I want to say thank you guys so much, and we can open it up for questions.
So far on Facebook, all we have is really no eating out.
Not no eating out, but you want to keep track of how much you're eating out and how much you're spending so you can put that into your budget.
So you being a financial advisor, the one question that I always get is, how much does it cost to hire a financial advisor to help you with that? How do you get paid?
That's a great question. So typically, financial advisors get paid one of two ways. The first way is going to be an asset under management percentage fee. How that works is when you put your money into the account, you get charged a percentage by your financial advisor. It can be anywhere from 0.5% to 2 or 3%. It depends on who you're working with, but then that will typically come right out of your account, or if you wanted to, you could use your checking account to pay for that fee. The other way that financial advisors get paid is a commission-based product, which is where you decide what you want to buy. They tell you what that commission is going to be, and then you pay the commission up front, like an A-share, or the financial advisor gets paid on the back end by the company that they're selling the product for.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for me?
We do have one on Facebook. They said, what's the very first step? Like, what's the simple, easy way to just start this journey?
That's a great question. So if you want to work with a financial advisor, I would say you want to have two things done. Number one, you want to know what your monthly budget is going to be. And number two, you want to have an already established emergency fund where you have at least 3 months of your expenses saved on the side. That way a financial advisor can actually give you advice that's going to benefit your situation because you're in a position to be saving money.
And then one more question we had is there like a percent of your income that kind of guides you towards what you should be spending on your home?
That's a great question. I'm going to let the mortgage broker talk a little bit more
Okay.
about that. But yeah, there are some rules of thumb. I would say for retirement savings, you're shooting for 10%.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you, Elise. Our next presenter is Jonathan McKinney. He is a senior mortgage consultant and branch manager at Hallmark Home Mortgage. He has been with Hallmark since 2009. He is married with 3 children. Jonathan resides in Mishawaka but grew up in South Bend. He holds a degree in business management from IUSB. And in 2024, Jonathan personally serviced over 200 families, and his team received national honors from the Scotsman Guide for his high performance level. Congratulations, that's huge. Jonathan actively shares weekly educational content with agents and clients, keeping them informed about the latest updates and changes in the mortgage industry. I personally get those and appreciate them. They are wonderful. So please join me in welcoming Jonathan.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'll be pretty quick. I've got a few updates. Actually, I do a homebuyer webinar once a month, and I'm going to share with you a few slides from that webinar that I typically share that's on here. And so it's called Home Buying 101 because there's a lot of people that have basic questions, but you'd be surprised it's not just for first-time home buyers. I call it Home Buying 101, not first-time buyers, because even if you've purchased a home before or you've been through the mortgage process before, a lot of people still struggle with knowing what to expect because each market's different and each scenario and circumstance is different. I mean, there might be first-time home sellers right now. You're thinking, man, I want to sell a house, but I've never sold before. And so there's a lot of new things, and even multiple times over, you might have questions. And so a couple quick things for you to consider. Number one, it is easier than you think to purchase a house. A lot of people get concerned about all the different guidelines that we have to follow as a lender, and it's not as bad as you think. If you have a good team around you, so if you've got a good real estate agent, you've got a good financial planner, you've got a good title company, you've got a good inspection companies, you've got good insurance agents, you've got people that's going to kind of give you a full service, and I believe that's kind of how we work. We want to make sure that we're guiding you along the process. So I do want to show you a couple things. One is the power of homeownership, and I know you can't see it really clearly on there, but there's 2 concerns that people have right now in the market that we're in. One is affordability, and the other one is stability. So they wonder, should I be buying a house right now? Because this is there's a lot of uncertainty right now. And so, are we going into a recession? Is there any concerns about me having any stability with my employment, with my job? Well, there are ups and downs in the stock market. We all know there's ups and downs in the bond market. I'm not a financial planner, so I'll qualify my comments with that. But I will say there is one thing that is a strong, bright spot of stability in our market, and that is home value appreciation and stability. And so across the country, but even more so in the Midwest in our area, homes are keeping their values. And I can't speak for every home in every pocket of the area, but I can say that real estate is a great investment. And so the first thing that we look at is the value of home ownership, and that's appreciation. And so on here you can see the forecasted appreciation rate over the next 5 years in our area is around 2 to 3%, and that's a pretty conservative number. And so if you just purchased a property, you can see on here, if you purchased a property that started out at $247 on your median price, which is the median price of St. Joe County, and you continue to add the appreciation rate year over year, at the end of 5 years, you would have around a $30,000 home equity appreciation in your home without paying any extra towards your principal balance, without you doing anything else, not even considering you taking any extra money and putting it toward other investments, which can build wealth. And so real estate is a great avenue for wealth building, okay? Let's see here. So this, I'm not going to go into that. That's just telling you more. So how do you start? Like, where do you start? So to me, I think that the number one priority of a buyer is to first be educated on the financing side of it. So you need to know what your budget is before you start looking at houses. I know many people start on Zillow, Realtor.com, all these online sites, and they don't have their budget in mind. Sometimes they'll come to me and they say, I want to buy a house that's X amount in price, but I want to keep my payment at a certain level. And sometimes those two things just don't marry up. You have an idea of where you want what the house to look like. You want your children to have so many, how many bedrooms. You want certain square footage. You want a certain type of a yard. But then you have a specific budget that you need to stay under. And so my job is to try to bring your budget to a reality and try to get you to a place where before you start looking at houses with your real estate agent, you know exactly what you should be looking at, so you're not wasting your time and you're not making your life more frustrating than it has to be. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. We're setting the right expectation. As we do that, we're going to look at your credit. So this is going to help us set the proper expectations, because we're going to see what your credit score is. We're going to know what we're working with, so we know what type of loan we should be approving you for. There's multiple loan types, and each one has a different guideline that we have to follow. And so credit is very important. So what can your credit score be? Scores can be as low as 300, as high as 850. Most lenders want to see your credit score as close to 850 as possible, but we know that not everybody's there. So for us, we'll go down to 580, but we would really like to see your score up into at least the 600s, even going into the 700s. Why? Because you're going to get a better deal. You're going to get better financing terms. You're going to qualify for potentially a lower payment and lower PMI costs as well. And I don't have time to get into all the details, but we will look at that. The one thing that we like to do at Hallmark is we will do what's called a soft credit pull. So there's two ways to pull credit so you can access your credit and know what your budget should be. One is a hard credit pull, which is when you do an official credit report with your lender. I actually like doing that because it's an official report, but that's only good for 120 days. And then after 120 days, we have to re-pull your credit again. It's also a hard pull, so it's considered a pull that can ding your credit ever so slightly. If you wanted just to get a budget in place, a soft credit pull is the way to go, because it's considered like a consumer credit report, where it doesn't hurt your credit when we pull your credit. So we like when many buyers start with a soft pull, get their budget, get their pre-approval, and then once they find a house, we can do a hard credit pull, and it's an easy way for you to at least get an idea of what you qualify for. Okay? All right. So how can I find out what's on my credit report? So let's say you're like, Jonathan, I'm not even ready to even have you talk to me yet, but I want to have an idea of what my budget is. Well, some people will go to Credit Karma, they'll go to myfico.com, they'll go to different sites like Capital One credit cards, have their own, they can monitor your credit and give you your scores. All these are great. There is one site you can go to that's actually a government-sponsored site called annualcreditreport.com. And you can actually pull your credit one time per week for free. You will not see your credit score, but you can see the body of your credit report. So if you go to annualcreditreport.com, it's the best way for you to start looking at your credit. It doesn't hurt your credit at all. You can at least prepare somewhat of a personal budget, and then that gives you a good start. We will pull from Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, all three bureaus, and we call that a tri-merge credit report. We take all three, we merge them onto one report, and we take the middle of those three scores, and that's what we qualify you with. Okay. All right, this is really important. You want to write this down, send this to all your friends, let your family know. Nobody wants to have unsolicited credit offers, and a lot of us get those. When a lender pulls your credit, this is important. When we pull your credit and we do a hard credit pull, that actually can be sold. It's called a trigger lead. The credit aggregators, they can actually sell your information. This is allowed. There's legislation they're trying to pass that's going to at least reduce unsolicited spam calls and different schemes that's trying to get you to apply for an out-of-state lender, an online website, and they will call you right now. It's allowed, where they'll sell it. That's how some of these credit bureaus make their money. They'll sell the credit pull, and then you'll be solicited by multiple different lenders. 5 more minutes, gotcha. And so those are not what you want. That's confusing. There's a lot of people that will, they're like loan sharks out there trying to get your information. I hate it. I had one situation where I was working with a doctor, and we pulled her credit, and she uses her phone for work. Patients call her, and we pulled her credit, and she had about 90 calls and text messages from just unsolicited, some other lenders trying to get her to call them back. And she's thinking, this is not what I want to do. So that's something we don't want. So how do you get rid of that? Go to optoutprescreen.com. Optoutprescreen.com. You go to that website. You can actually opt out of solicitations, pre-screen offers for 5 years if you want, or for your lifetime. And then it will prevent some of those unsolicited calls. Okay. Now, not all of them, because places will still call you. All right. Real quick, what makes up your payment? Principal, interest, property taxes, and insurance. And then if you have less than 20% down, PMI, mortgage insurance, we call that your PITI payment. That's your total amount. The reason why I bring this up is because you go to a website and you're trying to calculate your own payment. A lot of times they're not putting in correct taxes. They're not putting in insurance sometimes. They don't have all the correct information. So you're trying to prepare your own budget on an online site, and you won't even have the correct amount. And I get calls from people that call me and they'll say, hey, your payment's higher than what I expected. It's because they were using an online calculator that didn't have all the PITI information. So you have to be careful there. Okay. All right. This is going to answer your question. Somebody had a question about debt to income, and I'll finish this up. So what is the debt to income ratio that a lender is looking for? So we have 2 ratios we look at. We're going to look at a front ratio and a back ratio. And I know you guys can't see all of this, but the front ratio is your house payment ratio. We want to see that being below 30% of your gross income. And personally, that's a high number. Honestly, I think for you, if you were trying to be conservative, it should be about 25% of your net pay, 25% of your take-home pay should be your house payment. But lenders actually allow you to go up to 30% and sometimes exceeding 30% of your gross income per month can go toward a house payment. That's the front ratio. The back ratio is all of your debts. So your total debt to income ratio, that would be house, credit cards, auto loan, student loans, whatever else you've got, personal debt. All that's added together. We want your total debt ratio to be under 43 to 45% of your gross income. Personally, I want mine to be lower than that, but in the lending community, that's the guidelines that we typically follow. And you'll find sometimes lenders will go up to 50% of your gross pay to go toward all of your debts, your house and your non-housing debts. So lenders will qualify people even above 50% sometimes, but 50% typically is like the max limit. Okay. So moving on, I'll finish with this: a pre-qualification versus a pre-approval. So I would say there are 3 reasons why people wouldn't want to work with me. Number 1 is that I'm not an online lender. I am local, and I want to have high touch and high interactions with our clients. So the perception of push button get mortgage is just not true. But pre-qualifications will allow people to think that. So you'll get all your information in the system, and the lender will pop out a letter, and you've not provided any documents. You've not done anything specifically with that lender to know for sure what your budget is. So number 1, I'm not an online lender. Number 2, I work with a team. So I've got a team of my team specifically helps me communicate with our clients so that we make sure that we're high touch, we're always available, we communicate consistently. But the third thing is we're going to ask you for documents. I want to see your pay stubs. I want to see your W-2s. I want to see your bank statement so that I know for sure that when I issue you a pre-approval letter, it's actually good. So it's better than a pre-qualification. A pre-qual is just getting your credit pulled and no documents are provided. That gives you a pretty good idea of your budget, but a pre-approval is what you really would start with. And so I guess to cap it all off, how do you start? Slow down, get a lender to look at your credit, go through a budget, get an actual pre-approval if you want to start looking at houses with your real estate agent. And that's it. Any questions?
Got a bunch of questions for you, Jonathan.
Okay.
I've been told not to make a big purchase during the pending period. Is that true?
Not to make a major purchase during the pending. So like while you're under contract. Yeah, don't do.
What if you don't have enough money for a down payment? Can that be borrowed?
Well, yes. So we allow gifts. So if you don't have money for a down payment, we allow gifts from family members or allowable sources. You can get a grant. There's state programs through Indiana and Michigan. There's Indiana Housing and there's Michigan State Housing. They both allow down payment assistance as well. You typically wouldn't get a loan for your down payment because then we have to count that as a liability unless it's from the state of Indiana or Michigan, because that is considered a second loan that's sitting there, but you don't have any payment due, so it doesn't tap into your debt to income ratio or make it harder to qualify. So typically where the down payment comes from is your own savings, your own checking, your own retirement. I hate to say that, but some people will pull from their retirement at times. You can get a gift from family. You can use state programs, and there's some programs that just have no money down, like VA financing, there's no money down. USDA, there's no money down as well. And then we also have other programs that are available. Yeah.
What if I have negative things or bad credit? How long can that take to get cleared up and to get ready to buy?
That's a good question. So credit is not an exact science. So when a lender is telling you, here's what you should do to improve your credit, they know from an idea, because there are some sites we use that gives us, like, it's called Wayfinder, and there's different sites that gives us kind of some algorithms that gives us what if scenarios. But the best rule of thumb when it comes to the quickest way to improve your credit is you take any revolving debt. So before you even start a pre-approval, if you have any revolving debt, which would be credit card debt, and you have higher balances on those accounts, the simple solution is pay down those balances to, I would say, not an exact percentage, but 30, 20, 10% of the limit around there. That's going to maximize the borrower's credit score, and that can either get them to qualify or get them a better interest rate or lower PMI just by doing something that simple. So there's really multiple factors that go into your credit profile. One is just on-time payment. So if you just had some late payments recently, it might take you a lot longer. You might pay things down, but you still have to show proof of on-time pay history for a while. But if you have good pay history, but your credit score is still not maximized, just pay down your credit cards and you'll be better.
And then one more, you said something about having to provide like check stubs from your job.
Yeah.
What if I am self-employed?
Yeah, self-employed borrowers are a little bit more of a interesting documentation needed. So especially this time of year because taxes are just being filed. So typically we'll need 2 years of federal income tax returns. And we like to have the most recent 2 years, so 2024 and 23. Unless you filed an extension, then we can use 23 and 22. And sometimes we'll get a current year-to-date, especially after the first quarter, a year-to-date profit and loss statement so that we can make sure that that business is still tracking in a decent direction. But we'll typically average the 2 years of your income. So let's say you're a Schedule C self-employed borrower. We're going to look at your tax returns. We're not looking at gross receipts because if you're running a business, the gross income you receive is not the income that you're actually taxed on. We're going to look at what you're taxable, and then there's certain business expenses that we can add back in, but a lot of that could be subtracted out. So I've got some business owners, they'll call me, they'll say, I've got $200,000 in gross income and gross receipts, but then when it's all said and done, they're only claiming $20,000. So that's a huge difference when it comes to how a lender qualifies as a self-employed borrower. So especially this time, since taxes are going to be filed soon or extensions, if you're self-employed, reach out to your lender before you file those 2024 taxes, and they can at least give you some guidance on, hey, you shouldn't be deducting so much if you want to qualify for a house. So something we can help them with.
And then, so you said 2 years for self-employed. What if I just work for somebody else? How long should I be at my job before I try to qualify?
Yeah, so lenders will want 2 years of work history or 2 years of history regardless. So an example of non-work history is if you're a college student and then you graduate and then you start a new job, we'll use the education as a work history, even though it's not really like work history. But typically 2 years, if you have a new job, we'll actually qualify a buyer before they even start their new job. Some people think, oh, I got to be on my new job for at least 6 months or so long. Sometimes, if it's like a variable income or if it's more of an hourly pay, but if it's a salaried buyer and they're starting a new job, we'll actually qualify them with an employment agreement, a contract, before they even start. But typically, we want to see a 2-year history. Yep.
Thank you.
So, Jonathan, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I know before you go, I know a lot of people, when they want to buy a home, the first thing they do is they jump on the internet and they try to see how much money they can borrow.
Mm-hmm.
What are the advantages of using somebody local versus doing that, going online?
Well, I think the main thing is, for me, I want to help a buyer get their offer accepted. And so the best way that I can help a buyer get their offer accepted is by making sure I can communicate with the listing agent that I've fully vetted this buyer, they're as good as cash, number one, so that I can actually have that reputation, that phone conversation. And most of your internet lenders aren't going to do that. I'm not trying to dismiss any of them. But that's number one. Number two is I believe that our pre-approval letters have value. And the value is a reputation that's local. So when people see that, they know, okay, that I can trust this pre-approval letter. And so to me, I think in a competitive offer situation, having a local lender could be the difference between you getting your offer accepted or you not getting your offer accepted. So.
And I've seen that, so
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're
That was a
welcome.
great presentation.
You're welcome.
We
Thank you.
appreciate all
Appreciate
the information that you
course.
shared. So thank you so much. So over the next 3 workshops, we're going to be tackling this entire, and I know it's probably hard to see, but this entire 12-step process. So I kind of wanted just to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to go into over the next few classes. So we've already covered technically 2, which is get the pre-approval. That's what we're talking about today. But along with preparing yourself financially, you'll need to choose a realtor and a realtor. I don't know if many people know this, but back in the summer of 2024, the law changed. And now, in order for an agent to show any potential buyer a property or to work with you, the buyer must sign a buyer agency agreement. So it's a simple form. This form simply documents how your agent's getting compensated. So if you have an agent that's willing to show you homes without this agreement, be aware they may not be following the law. And so this could result in later issues with the entire home buying process, but we're going to walk you through that process in our next workshop, which is what do you want in a house? So, and then once you've chosen and signed an agreement with an agent, this is where the fun begins, because this is when you get to set up your search with your must-haves, your want-to-haves, and then things you just don't want in a house. And so at this time, you'll start viewing homes, you'll start online, you'll drive through desired neighborhoods, you may even attend some open houses. But once you choose the homes that you want to see in person, your agent is going to go with you and to your favorites, and they're going to guide you as you choose the perfect one. So remember, there is no perfect house, but there will be a perfect one for you. So something to consider. So once you've chosen a home that you want to purchase, then we're going to start step 5, which is submitting the offer. And with this particular process, bear with me, this is where you submit the offer. It could be the most complicated part of this entire process. And so that we are going to cover in depth for our next workshop. And that is entitled Submitting an Offer, and that will take place in August. So once your offer is accepted, then you will continue moving along by submitting the earnest money. Earnest money is generally about 1% of the purchase price. You're going to finalize the loan, insurance, inspections, repairs, movers, utilities, and the closing process. So a little bit about Janelle first. So I don't know if many people know this, but she did transition from real estate sales to become the newest account executive for Fidelity National Title. And we are located here in Mishawaka. Married to Scott for over 5 years. Janelle resides in Granger, Granger, Indiana. So some things to note about Fidelity Title is they have been serving the real estate community of Indiana for over 60 years. But Fidelity holds relationships in the highest esteem since people are their greatest assets. And they have claimed the banner, the most trusted name in residential title services since 1848. That's pretty impressive. So please join me in welcoming Janelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here and joining us this evening. First of all, we're just going to talk a little bit about why will you close your transaction at Fidelity? Why will you use, why do you need to use a title company? Well, actually, a title company is the glue to the transaction. We at Fidelity correspond with every person involved in the transaction. We speak with the agents, the buyers, the sellers, the lenders, sometimes attorneys, HOAs, inspectors, all of the above. If we are requesting information, they send that information to us, and we gather that and it's sent to our processing team. It's also where you're going to come and sign those legal documents to take ownership of the property. So what does that process kind of look like? So we just learned from Jill that you're going to be searching for properties. You're going to write a contract when you find that property that you love. You're going to submit an offer, and if your offer is accepted, you now have a fully executed purchase agreement. Well, one of your agents from the Inspired team would then send Fidelity those signed documents. At that point in time, it's going to go to our processing team. The processing team then begins an extensive title search. Why do they need to do that? Because we want to make sure when you receive title to the property that that title is clear of defects. Sometimes they have to go back 40 to 50 years to collect data. We also have an escrow team. The escrow team is all about the numbers. They're going to put together those final figures to prepare the settlement statement and also help to assemble that file for the closing. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some insurance, different types of insurance. I think I got to go up here. Sorry about that. Yep, there we go. All right, these different types of insurance are going to help you understand title insurance a little bit better. So you'll have homeowners insurance, and why do you want homeowners insurance? Because your house might catch fire. You have car insurance because you might get into a car accident. You have health insurance because you might get sick, and you might get travel insurance because someone might lose your luggage. Well, title insurance is very different from these types of insurance policies. Those are all insurance policies that protect you something in the future that might happen. Title insurance is a guarantee of something that already happened in the past. It sounds a little bit confusing, but that gives a little bit of an idea of the difference between like a homeowner's insurance, medical insurance versus title insurance. So simply stated, a title to the piece of property is actually the evidence that the owner is in lawful possession of that property. And we again want to make sure we don't have any defects or liens on that property. We want to clear that up so you receive clear title when we close the property. Issues, if you can believe it or not, title issues are found in nearly 1 out of every 3 real estate transactions. So when you're working with your Inspired agent and you go under contract on a property, chances are there's going to be some defects on that title. Maybe the seller has a current mortgage that we need to make sure is paid off when we sign those papers at closing. We do this research and everything up front so that you're not faced with those. You don't have to deal with them in court later down. A title insurance policy actually offers you protection in case a problem should occur in the future. So here's just a few common things that we deal with on a daily basis. Again, paid unreleased loans. That might be a mortgage that someone has. We want to make sure that's paid for at closing. Maybe the seller passed away, so that would be another issue. Unpaid taxes. So those are just a couple of things. And in summary, a title insurance protects against claims and defects. Again, another person may be claiming ownership or interest in the property, forgery, liens, and so forth. So the most important thing that we want to make sure happens, again, I can't stress it enough, is when you sign those documents and take ownership to your new property, that you are receiving a clear and clean title free of defects. Thank you all so much, and it's exciting to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions for Janelle?
So what does a clear title mean?
So a clear title, that is a really good question. So sometimes we deal with, let's say a homeowner had a contractor come and do work on their house, and maybe they have an unpaid bill that they didn't pay that contractor. Well, in a title search, we can obtain that information, and we know exactly what defect that is, and we have to address that. So that's going to be paid off at the closing table. It would be out of the seller's proceeds, per se, because nobody wants to incur somebody else's debt. You don't want to inherit that stuff. So we got to do a really good search and make sure those things are discovered. And then you have that protection that when you purchase the home and you're living in the home, let's say 5 years from now, that contractor can't come back and go after you for those funds.
So Kyla on Facebook asked, if the property is paid off and the owner holds the title, why do you need title insurance?
Well, it again is that protection, because we go back many years and defects are missed, they are hidden sometimes, and as hard as we try and we do a wonderful, wonderful job about it, things can occur. They can come up in the future. And that is your protection, your financial protection that should occur. And the difference too, you're gonna have a lender's policy and there's an owner's policy. So the lender's policy would protect the lender from the amount that you have borrowed against, but you might be in the property for 5 years and have some equity in the home, but it doesn't protect you then. If you don't have an owner's policy, it doesn't protect that equity amount. So you wanna make sure that you have protection against the full value.
And then how much does it cost? Is it like a % of the home, or?
It varies it too. It depends on the property. Sometimes it is what the purchase price of the property is. And again, if it is a cash closing or if there is a lender involved and those sorts of things. So there are a few different fees that are variable.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing us to do this presentation here. We
Yeah.
so appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are actually running a little ahead of schedule, so does anybody have any questions at all for any of our presenters?
So we have one for Elise that said, how do I, if you want to go back up there. How do I make a budget? What should be on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you want to start off in maintenance and things like that, title and registration for your car. And then beyond your car, that's when you need to start thinking about, okay, I've got to have food. So are you going to the grocery store more often, or are you going out to eat more often? Are you going to put a budget on your going out to eat and go to the grocery store more so you can have more discretionary income or income that you can save to get to that first time home purchase or retirement or whatever your financial goal is. So you want to go through each thing that you're spending money on a monthly basis, and for those annual subscriptions, so for example, I just bought an annual subscription to Zoom today, right? That was $160. So I wanted to put that $160 in my budget because I'm still spending money on it, whether it's annually or monthly. You've got to have everything in your budget so you know what your standard of living is going to be, so you can start saving or putting money towards your financial goals.
And then one more we have is, how do you balance saving for a house and saving for retirement?
Oh, that's a great question. I will say it is a delicate balance because you still want to be able to retire even though you do want to buy your house. So I think that's where you need to schedule a conversation with a financial professional like me, where you can go through what your goals actually look like. What is the dream house that you're going for? Are you looking at a $200,000 house or an $800,000 house? And what does retirement look like for you? Are you spending $2,000 a month? Or are you spending $20,000 a month? Because there is a wide range of what I've seen. So everything should be specific and tailored to you. And I think that would be a great question for a financial professional.
Great. Do we have any other questions? Thank you so much for answering
You're
those.
welcome.
Any other questions for anybody else?
That's all I've got on Facebook right now.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, we are finishing a little ahead of time, but our presenters will be here for a little bit. So if you have any other questions, please reach out on Facebook and ask those questions, and we'll try and get those answered for you. Also, for a recording of this presentation, it will be on our website at inspiredhomes.com. So our presentation, along with contact information for all of our presenters, will be there. So if you would like to take a look at this, share it, by all means, go to our website and it will be there. And yeah, it'll be there for a while. And so will the upcoming classes as well.